Okay, after all that great work, we're now at step 8. We have a project model and we're ready to simulate to create a first forecast. We left off, if you recall, with that new integrated prototype, so let me add that to the topmost part of the PBS. Then I'll go to the Tools menu, select Simulator, so that we can generate our first forecast. Now there are many options here, but as always, I'm going to include a description because we'll be saving the project model and, if successful, a new forecast along with the project model. We'll leave the GPD method option for now, and for the number of simulations, the number of runs, we'll select 5, and that's to use Monte Carlo. Please click Start so that we can request to the server that a simulation be started. Wait a moment and look to the lower left of the designer. So now I can go to Tools menu, open the Forecast application, which will show up blank at first. And so within Forecast, you need to open up one of the forecasts. I can see we only have one so far, index number 19 in my case. And now we have a forecast of our project. Now we see overall, looking at the top of the screen, that this project is forecast across the 5 simulation runs using Monte Carlo to be 481 hours of effort over 63 days, costing almost $40,000. We're looking now at an overview of the project with several different kinds of pie charts. Cost overview, cost by team, shown here. And I can click on the teams, and just like Designer, I can open up a detailed pane on the right. A Gantt chart is also generated, and this may be a bit surprising and important. In project design, the Gantt chart is not an input, but an output. That is, the duration of tasks is not known ahead of time, but is an emergent result of how the tasks are defined, their scope and complexity, the resources allocated to them, and how they fit in an overall project topology. Here I can see that I'm zooming in on the Gantt chart, and I can even show uncertainty bounds because we use Monte Carlo. Again, similar to Designer, here in the Forecast application, I can open a detailed pane on the right. And if I click on a project element, for example, in this case, an activity, I can see all sorts of detail on the right about the expected progress, cost, and allocation of effort across teams. So that's it for your first project. How does this compare to your expectations of the project model we created so far? Is anything surprising? By exploring the forecast, do we see anything different than expected? And perhaps a mistake we made in the original model? It's almost always true that the first few models, if not several models, don't tell us much yet about the likely cost and duration of the project. They might instead tell us something about bugs in our model, mistakes we made, or things we forgot. That's actually useful. Once your model is as you expect it to be on the input, then the forecast will start to be more and more interesting and insightful, which is what we'll get to next. Let's take a moment to look at our model to see if we can find any issues. Looking at the Gantt chart, on the left, in the work breakdown structure, I can see that the latest activities we added weren't part of the phase, or any phase. So going back to Designer and highlighting the WBS lines, I can see that prepare instrumentation and integrate subsystems are not in phase 3. Let's add them there. So now all activities are properly in the WBS. We can rerun the simulation, creating a description, noting the most recent changes we've taken, that is adding these activities into phase 3. We're going to run the same simulation with 5 Monte Carlo runs. Looking at the left, we can see the simulation is done. And now in Forecast, we open and see 2 different forecasts. Let's open up the most recent forecast, and now properly we can see the activities in the WBS as expected. Now, you're probably tired of me asking you and reminding you to save. Well, here's the good news. When running a simulation, the forecast automatically saves and includes a version of your project model in the database. In the Open Project from Database chooser, you can see when any saved project model includes an attached forecast because a red gears icon will appear. Therefore, you can always go back and reload a project model that is paired with the previous simulation.